Okay folks, what we're going to do is we're going to upgrade the processor in my Alienware M17 right here, and it has an i5 in it, which I'll fire up and show you, and maybe and I bought an i7 for it, so we'll see how much of a difference that makes. Let's just do this live here. I know it's a little chore, so bear with me. Of course, we got to go to the Windows experience. It's got an i5, 520, 2.4 gigahertz. It's dual core. It says the Windows experience is 5.9, which isn't good. 6.8 is the processor. Everything else is above 7. The RAM is 5.9 because this i5 it doesn't have the same front side bus that the i7 would have, so when I put the i7 in there, I expect to see the RAM run at its full potential, which it is not right now. Blurry, which this isn't. This camera probably isn't well suited for up close stuff. Yeah, if I flip this, does that help? Yeah, there we go. So it's running at it's a 520, and the front side bus is slower. And this has that turbocharged thing, so if I let this sit idle long enough, it'll actually run up to 2.8 gigahertz, 2.9, because it hasn't reached its thermal limit. And I bought a 720, which I'll get out and I'll show you here. But I'm hoping that if we go to, see, this DDR is 533 megahertz. And I'm hoping that when I put that i7 in there, it'll actually jump up and I'll get more speed out of my RAM too, because it can run faster. It just does not, because it's limited by the processor. What I'm going to try and do is maybe set up a little video thing, and we'll compile a video, and then when I put the new processor in, we'll compile the same video and see if it makes a difference. I am saving for high definition display, which should be 1080. I'm going to save it as CPU test, and then we'll see about how long it's gonna take. The clock says 3:22. See you on the other side. Okay, here's a CPU test video. 1080, 589 megs. It took about the process stopped running at 3:29, so that's what, 8 minutes, 7 minutes. So I don't know if we'll see a significant improvement, because it wasn't a very scientific example, but hopefully we'll see some improvement, and I'll be able to comment on that when we're done. Okay, I've went ahead and I've switched back to my big camera for this, and got my Mountain Dew, which every good tech person should be very familiar with. What we gotta do is we gotta start taking this guy apart. Now, excuse me, had to consult a couple YouTube videos on how to dismantle this, but you start with the battery for obvious reasons, and and then you just start taking a bunch of screws apart. So once I get about 9,000 screws on the table, then I'll probably actually go get something to put them in. But I probably won't bore you with all the details, but I'm going to take this cover off. Okay, this palm rest should be ready to come off, so we're going to slide it forward like so and lift it up. And then there should be a little ribbon that we can pop off right here, and the palm rest is out. So don't let me forget to hook that ribbon back up when I put it back. Okay, we are actually one step closer to where I want to be. This is the ultimate goal right here. This is the heatsink and the screws for the CPU. And I'll see if I can zoom in a little bit here. One thing that I wanted to go over, this is the Radeon 5870. This is the primary video card. And if you look, if I roll it this way, you can see the big fat blank right here where you can put a second video card. Now, I don't have a second video card, but I have a second video card on order. Okay, I've got the plate loose. Here are the connectors for the screen. They go right there. Here's the wires I had to fish out. I didn't really have to take any of the add-in cards out, but what I've done is I've left all the P-screws in their holes. So in theory, I'm going to pick this guy straight up and then move him out of the way, and then when I go to put him back, I can put him straight down. So let's see how well this guy goes. Oh yeah, that guy came right off. The only thing I have to worry about is just making sure I fish all the little ribbon connectors right back through the holes they go in. Which is why I do these videos. You think it's for your benefit, but it's really so I can remember where everything goes. I'm going to do my best to leave all these little screws in the holes that they're in. And I'll get back to you. What we can actually see here on this processor is it has the torque sequence 1, 2, 3, 4. You have to torque it in a certain order so that you make sure that it's level. And if I'm assuming, based on the other things that I've done, that these are actually spring-loaded too, to make sure that you don't over-torque them. But I'll go ahead and remove these. Oh, man, might have to cut this part out. Let me see if I got my little nubby screwdriver. Best tool ever, man. And it's too big. The nubby screwdriver that's the actual right size, I dropped behind the washer, so I don't know if I'll be able to use that. I actually probably should go get a longer screwdriver anyway, and I gotta go get some rubbing alcohol so that I can clean the processors off real good. Okay, now that I have my proper tool, let's see if I can take this bad boy off. Ah, look how much easier it comes off. Looks like they are spring-loaded too. Ah, it's getting loose. Loosey loose. And off she comes. That's cool. Nice looking heatsink there. And that looks a lot like an i5 processor. You can see, as I roll around here, you can see here's the main core, and then here's the actual video, you know, onboard video, that the HD 2000 or whatever this i5 has in it, which this computer does not use because it has the separate video card, but it should work fine in my Acer, because the Pentium that's in my Acer actually does utilize that onboard video. Let's go ahead and pop this guy out while I'm here. Excuse me. I should be able to, this is a 989 socket. If I take this guy loose, see how it kind of, maybe you didn't see it. It kind of rocks that processor back and forth when I loosen that screw. Let me get an anti-static bag, because I don't want to destroy this thing. Should have a couple laying around here. And I'll go ahead and grab something metal to maybe ground myself. And this guy should lift right off. Look at that. That thing is beautiful. i5 520 turbocharged. I'll go ahead and clean this stuff off. We'll do a comparison of the two processors. So I'll go ahead and break out the i7 that came in this little container thing here. Right here we have the i7. If you notice, this one only has one core. It does not have the integrated video. This is the i7 quad core, and this is the i5 dual core. Those guys should fall into place. I'm going to go ahead and give this i7, I can see some smudges on it. It shouldn't take too much to clean up because it's already been cleaned up by the guy who took it out. Okay, so this is what the setup is actually going to look like. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the laptop back on the table, and then we'll set the processor in the socket, put on the CPU grease, and put it all back together. Alright, so we got the board up, we got the socket is loose, and what we do is this, let me see if I actually have a pointing device here. There's a little key here where there's missing a pin, and what we have to do is we have to line up this side of the processor that's missing that same pin with the missing slot, and you can see there's a little arrow there, and it should just fall right into place like that. You shouldn't have to use any pressure. It's called a ZIF socket, Z-I-F, zero insertion force, as opposed to a lift socket, which is low insertion force. They haven't used those since the old 486 DX2s, and you had to stand on those processors to get them to crunch into that socket. So low insertion force is a little optimistic, but in theory, once I tighten this guy down, it should rock back into place, and she's in. That's about as good as I can make it. So now what we have to do is we have to put the thermal grease onto the top of that die, and I have some Arctic Silver here. Actually, I decided to see if we can get some of this on camera. If I start to make a big mess, I might cut it and go back, but what I want to do is I want to take this little razor blade here, spread this guy out. Doesn't have to be perfect, because when you clamp down the socket, it'll actually help with seal it onto the heatsink, spread it out more, but you really don't need that much. That actually should be fairly good. Actually, that looks a lot better than I thought it would. So, okay, I've got my heatsink here. Woohoo! Drop my heatsink here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put some of this material on here, like so, which is probably more than I actually need. And then I'm going to take this paper towel. I switched to a paper towel. This is probably more lint-free than that blue towel was. And I'm going to rub this guy around like so. Make sure that I cover it all. And then what I do is I really just wipe it off. You say, well, what do you do that for? This is just the method to get some of this media into any grooves or landings to prevent any air bubbles. Doesn't have to be perfect, but it's going to help fill in some of those little gaps, which this copper is in pretty good shape, so it's probably not something I have to worry about here. And actually, I should be ready to apply it. So let's do that. I might actually zoom it back in. No, we'll be all right. We'll just get it on there. This is actually nice. It's nice on this laptop because you don't have to worry about a big goofy fan. The fan's actually underneath. You can see the fan here, and as it spins, it blows air through that heatsink, which cools it down. So now that I've got that sitting down in there, we go 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how we're going to tighten this guy down. I know I've probably been wheezing and moaning through this whole video. It's not because this is that exciting to me. It's just I've been fighting a sinus infection. And I find that I breathe through my mouth because my nose isn't working. Just like tightening down the lug nuts on your car. You don't want to warp it any. The nice thing about these spring-loaded things is you can't over-tighten it either, so you don't get any bowing or anything in the heatsink. Now, my new processor is in this laptop. So the only thing left to do right now is to reassemble it all and turn it on. So while in the next scene you're going to see me booting up the laptop, I'm going to have to put this thing back together for the next hour. And hopefully not forget where any of these little ribbon cables or screws go.
you know, because I've already kind of forgotten some of them. But
okay, here we are back where we began. So, and I've got it all back together. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to turn this guy on so we can all see what happens for the first time. I don't know. If the processor's good, it should work. I plugged it in so that we won't get that righteous beep, so that if anything does beep, it'll let me know that something's wrong. So, cross your fingers. Oh, blinky blinky. That's not good. Not a good sign. That usually means something. So I'll go ahead and look up what that code is. It's probably bad news. Okay, so according to this thing, according to the internet, when the numlock is solid and the two next to it are blinking, that means the LCD has encountered a problem during initiation. So I'm going to take the keyboard back off, reseat the cables, we'll go from there. Okay, what I've done is I've reseated the LCD connections and just left everything apart. And I do need to plug it in because the battery's not hooked up. Okay. Lord, please don't let me explode. No blinky blinky. Oh, we got screen, baby. We got screen. I need to type something here. Start Windows normally. Starting Windows. The cables were just loose. Well, not too bad. Let me see if I can get my little tripod guy to work here. Ooh, look at that. Well, the video is all funky. Quit. Let's go ahead and quit. But you know what? That's a good sign. It says I need to reinstall my AMD drivers. But that's totally not insurmountable. As long as we got some network, there are always ways around that. Let's go ahead and see if it picked up the i7. I'm going to check that in two places. I'm going to flip it back to macro setting here so I can get close. Properties. Oh, I got 5. Ooh, look at that. It's something goofy. It doesn't say i7, but it says Q something or other. It recognizes the 1.6. But I'm not gonna run the Windows experience again until I get my drivers reinstalled. So if we go over here to the CPU ID, let's see what it tells us. Waiting. Look at that. 720QM. Picked it all up, man. 1.6 gigahertz. It's actually running at 2.8 because it's only using 2 cores. Look at that. 4 cores, 8 threads, 6 megs. That's awesome. Let's see if the memory picked up. Look at that. Instead of saying 533, it says 665 like it should. I did check the RAM when I had it apart. It's got 2 sticks of 2 gigs, so I'm actually going to have to buy 2 sticks of 4 gigs. So, yeah, jump that frequency right up. Alright, man, that's cool. Looks like I'm going to have to reinstall my video drivers, but that's no big deal. Oh, that might be because I pulled that CPU out, but I've had to deal with worse. So I'm going to get this all set up and put back together, and we'll redo our benchmark and redo our Windows experience. And looks pretty good to me, if I'm all blurry here. Okay, it's at 8:54. So I'm gonna go ahead and save this project. Save movie. We'll do high definition, and then we'll do CPU test 01. So in theory it should run again. It actually started at 55. So we'll do the math from there and we'll see if it makes any significant difference. What was it? Well, it's at least going to be 6 minutes, but it's at 95% and run at 6 minutes. I can't remember if that was significantly faster, like a minute faster. I doubt it would actually be a full minute faster, but it is running pretty good. It is running faster than I expected it to, or that I remember it. So I guess we'll find out how fast it runs when I actually go to put together this video. So there you go. Oh, the last 99% always takes the longest. And surprisingly enough, I didn't have any parts left over, if you'd believe that. There you go. 901. Well, I was a little curious about why my RAM didn't go up in speed. So what I did was I reran it when I came over to my loving sister-in-law's house, and it did. It jumped up hugely. We have to flip to this thing. Now you can get close. See, instead of being 5.9, it went up to 7.4. That's a huge jump. So now my Windows experience is 7.0 instead of 5.9. That's a significant improvement. And I flip back on the switch on the top. So I should see some marked improvement somewhere, but we'll find out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all these videos that I've shot and now put them together for my adoring YouTube fans.
And they are many.
And they are about 4. Okay. Well, I had to take the i7 out of my laptop because if you notice, let's just flip this around. If you notice right there, see how it says ES? That Q3BA, that's an engineering sample i7. And I did some research and I found out that these engineering samples, they don't have the ability to tell the fan to speed up. And so it ran great, and I showed the video when I first put it in of it actually compiling the movie, but it was a very short movie. It took like 3 minutes to run. So when I actually tried to take all the footage to make the video, it just kept freezing and freezing, and I actually tried to show the processor actually running, but apparently I forgot to, you know, record it. But what it would do is, see, these i7s and the i5s and the i3s, the first generations, have the ability to turbo clock. So if they're not running hot enough, they can actually speed up. And then as they heat up, they actually back off the clock multiplier. And since this doesn't actually have the ability to control the fan temperature, it was overheating. And to compensate for the heat, it was backing off the clock multiplier. This guy was only running 500 megahertz. You know, it was running fine, and it was basically running on passive cooling. And the passive cooling was running at 500 megahertz. So I actually put the i5 back in, and it's back to where it was. I might order another one. We'll see. The guy that I bought it off of said he'd actually give me a refund for it. So I figured I'd give you guys a heads up and an update on where I ended up.